Hi there VC, it's Steve Whitty here with another recent listens video, number 15 I believe. I hope everyone's doing well, and bank holiday weekend in the UK, and for once the sun is shining, so I'm going to make the most of the next few days, couple of days off. I'm not back in work until Tuesday, so yeah, hope everyone's well. And been enjoying listening to some good music. I've been trying to fit in listening a lot of records that I've got hold of recently, and some CDs that I've been given. So trying to slowly catch up on myself a little bit. So there you go. Now I'm going to show you about 10 or 11 albums, mixture of genres. So listen to them about a few weeks back. Sort of show off what I got. Quite lucky. Price wise, I did quite well, partly because of the condition of them. But I'll explain that as I go along. So, first album I'm going to show you. It is Blondie's debut album, Blonde self-titled debut album, released in 1977. Now, it was originally released on the Private Stock label. The edition I've got was released on Chrysalis, re-released on Chrysalis, and this on the back of the success that Blondie achieved the following year. On the album, you got Ex-Offender, In the Flesh, Ripper to Shreds. I find this album being a mixture of obviously what was going on in New York at the time, their own take on it, but very sort of harking back to sort of like 60s pop. Obviously big fans of that band were big fans of that period, so that sort of shows off in this album and sort of highlights the sort of direction they were going in. You see from the lineup, Gary Valentine was the bass player at the time. Back overall, a very good album actually. It's probably the first time I'd owned a copy of said album. I'd probably listened to it, but to actually get hold of a copy, I was quite pleased to get that. Second album, something a bit local to me, bit a Birmingham band. This is Magnum. This is Chase the Dragon, released in 1982. I think this might have been I'm trying to think if it's the fourth or fifth studio album. This charted for them. Probably got some of the better known songs on here. Soldier of the Line, which was Magnum. Tony Clarkin, who wrote the songs for Magnum, always included an anti-war song on each album. Soldier of the Line was that track, and you've got The Spirit on here as well, which has always been a great favourite. I've been fortunate to see Magnum a couple of times, and that sort of was played as an acoustic, allowing for the fans to sing along. In fact, one gig I saw of them was actually broadcast on radio, one was recorded. So I have been broadcast singing along to a Magnum song on national radio. So there you go. Yeah, I think Magnum are a really good, solid rock. I wouldn't even call them a metal band, actually. I call them a rock band. If you haven't checked out any of their stuff, it's always worth going for. This album, On a Storyteller's Night, Wings of Heaven, Vigilante, they're albums I would check out. Still going. Released a live album which was recorded at Birmingham Symphony Hall, which is quite local to me. So yeah, they're a band that's worth checking out. Now, excuse me, I was just making a bit of room to put my records I finished talking about. The album I've been looking for a while and glad to get hold of is Jethro Tull's Minstrel in the Gallery. It was released in 1975. A couple of gaps in my Tull collection, 70s, that and the Passions plays one. But this is quite an interesting album. I sort of picked up on it, reading about it. There was an article in Classic Rock about it. And I think Kronos from Van Venom rates it as one of his favourite albums. It's quite a heavy sounding album. Yeah, and I have to say I can't really go wrong with any 70s Jethro Tull. Is it up there with their best? No. but I think it's still a good album. Um, I think there was a good level of consistency with Tull at that time. So really good album, and I think the lineup at that point was quite stable. And I think some people might even call it around the classic period in the 70s. Some might say that the late 60s, that lineup. I don't know. It's for people to decide. I just think it's a very good album. Was in the shop when I sort of come across this album. Um, this is the Temptations anthology. I won't get it out. It's a triple album. I got this for £1 primarily because the cover, actually, you can see there, covers water damaged, quite heavily water damaged. And the booklet inside, the records are fine. They play beautifully, they're cleaned up, played beautifully. And I got the anthology for Marvin Gaye, and I got the Stevie Wonder one. So to see this, I was really pleased to have this. Temptations, classic Motown band. It's just got all the classic songs on there, and it covers through all the periods. The 60s, and then when Norman Whitfield took over, took charge of them. That Papa with the Rolling Stone. It's just Psychedelic Shack, all that. Just some classic Motown songs. My Girl, of course. Just My Imagination Running Away with Me. Just absolutely stonking album. To find this only for £1, yes. I mean, if I find a better copy, yes, I will take it. But I won't be in such a rush to get to replace it. That's more than enough for me there. And a lot of these albums I brought, show you, were in that same batch with water damage cover in the shop. So I got them for either £1 or a couple of pound. Records all play it fine. So in blues, you got Robert Cray's Strong Persuader. This came out 1986. I think it might be his second or third album. And it's a good blues album. Blues is again another genre that I'm not totally au fait on, but some good stuff here on here. Smoking Gun, I guess I showed her. What a Wonder, Fantasise. So it's got the features the Memphis Horns on here. It's a good album. I mean, if I see some Robert Cray, I'll pick it up. I've got a couple of CDs of his floating away somewhere. Probably the biggest thing I found was some rock jazz fusion, particularly Stanley Clarke. You can tell the water damage here at the back. So this is Stanley Clarke's self-titled album, released on Atlantic. The Atlantic label. I'm trying to think which year it was. I'm not too fussed about it. It's again jazz fusion. I'm not totally au fait. I'm aware of Stanley Clarke. I've already got School Days in the collection, so to pick some of that up, and what I listened to, I liked. So you got the self-titled album, and then you've got Journey to Love. And there's a song on here. It's on side 2, Song to John, part 2, which is dedicated to, Song to John. The album's sort of dominated a little bit by Song to John. So it closes side, part 1 closes side 1 out, and opens up with part 2, which is a dedication to John Coltrane. Produced by Stanley Clarke, and it's got Ken Scott, which is the Bowie producer. So that was quite interesting. This one is on the, if I can read it, it's got Atlantic, but it actually shows up as the Emperor Records, I think is how you pronounce it. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably am. And then I've got some 80s Stanley Clarke, which isn't quite up to the 70s stuff. So this is Hideaway. Still good, but it's not. He does some. This does sound a little bit 80s. And you got features on the album features and Larry Graham vocals and bass as well. Alfonso Johnson plays bass. There's quite a lot of bass floating around in here. Stuart Copeland drums on the track "The Boys of Johnson Street." It's actually, and he did at this time. He produced Shalimar, so Howard Hewitt's providing of the band is providing some background vocals as well. So yeah, it's not a bad album. Again, a little bit of water damage on the cover. And the final one with Stanley Clarke is "If This Bass Could Only Talk," and it is basically, you've got the picture of Stanley Clarke's bass. You can tell it's been used a lot. His main bass. It's got the song "Good Cop Pie Pork Pat," Pork Pie Hat, which is dedicated to Jaco Pastorius and Gil Evans. I Want to Play For You, Stories to Tell. Funny How Time Flies When You're Having Fun. Working Man, Tradition. Come Take My Hand. Basically taps. And that's quite an interesting track because it's basically Stanley Clarke playing bass while Gregory Hines, dancer and actor, is just dancing along to it, and you can hear the tap shoes. This is probably better than Hideaway, in my opinion. Still not up there with the 70s stuff, but actually not a bad album to have. I think I was quite lucky to pick some of that up. It's something different to listen to, and I'm always there looking. Try to keep away from the same old. And then in this batch of water damage covers, I got this Al Di Meola Project album. This is Soaring Through a Dream, released on the EMI Manhattan label. And I'm trying to think when this came out. Probably can't because I think the water damage just took the year off. This is not a bad album. Obviously, the link with Stanley Clarke with Return to Forever. And that's a band I could do with finding some stuff because I've heard some good things about them. Some really good guitar playing. Obviously, he's a very proficient jazz guitarist, fusion guitarist. Because I think there's put in elements of rock in here as well. Very 80s because he's playing a synclavier guitar. But it's still not a bad album. But again, pleased to find that. Pleased to have something different in my collection. So I have one last look before I show the final record. Now, you go in your charity shops, thrift stores, and you know you're not going to get much in a way. But sometimes something random turns up, and this is random. It came into the shop I volunteered in. I'll show you the album. This is Mojo magazine's collector's edition, and I show it here. It's Blonde on Blonde revisited. Now, Mojo is a well-respected magazine in the UK, and it's very, very, very popular magazine. It's well respected. And like with most music magazines in the UK, they chuck a free CD on the cover. And this particular edition, they featured Blonde on Blonde. But they did do a couple of editions where they decided to sell a vinyl edition of the thing. You could buy it online, and they'd send it to you free in the post. And so they did with Blonde on Blonde. They did one when they did a celebration of physical graffitis. Now, when I say Blonde on Blonde revisited, the album is different artists covering the songs on Blonde on Blonde. So he got this. Now, this came into the charity shop. This was quite random because we had the physical graffiti, and we had not one, but 3 of these albums. The guy donated some CDs, but he had left a bag there, so you can have these as well. And he had 3 of these. which was very random. So I brought one. I put the physical graffiti out, and somebody brought that, and I've sold another one of these. I've got. No, actually, it was 4 because I had. Because I brought one. We've sold one. Got one out on the shop and got one out the back. So we had 4 of these. Considering there was only a limited run of these, I'm quite amazed how we ended up with 4 of them. Hey ho. So what you got? You said, I've got to be careful because the protective covers start to split slightly. So you get your record. You get obviously the edition of Mojo, which is quite a good edition of Mojo to have actually, because it was the one that came out when after Prince died. So there's a celebration of Prince, and you also got a poster. So some of the and then the actual record you did, the actual record itself, was a double album in nice yellow vinyl, and the label is done to sort of try and replicate the CBS. So I'll give you a list of who's on the album, some of the people that are on the album. So you got Jim O'Rourke, Riley Walker, Melissa Nadar, Michael Chapman, Chip Taylor, Malcolm Middleton, Steve Gunn, Kevin Morby, amongst others. Who else is on there? Steve, Jim. Yeah, I think I've named all the half decent ones. But they all cover a track off the album. They do it in their own way. That was the beauty of these albums revisited. Done all the Beatles albums have been done like on CD as well. Other classic albums have been done where guest artists redo their own versions of a particular track, and they were quite interesting listens. So yeah, I was really pleased to find this. This is quite an astonishing find. Just don't have one, but then with the shop to have 4 copies of such things. And so I ended up buying one, just for myself. It's great, excellent. So it's if you can find one of those, it's well worth having. So there you go, VC. That's enough of me rambling on for the weekend. I'm off to enjoy the sun. Well, I'm out today, up to some pub to have a couple of beers and listen to some music in regards to sort of like a 50th anniversary celebration of Woodstock. And then Saturday and Monday, the bank holiday, I think I'm just going to go off into the Birmingham City Centre. Just go out, stretch my legs a little bit, and take advantage of good weather. Normally, absolutely persists down with rain on a bank holiday. So, whatever you get up to this week, VC, look after yourselves. If you're new to the channel, you come across it, stumbled across it, and you like what you see, click on the subscribe button. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. Excuse me, I best stop this because my voice is about to pack up. Where was I? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll always get back to you. That's the one. The immediate memory goes first. So until next video, VC, take care of yourselves. Keep spinning. More importantly, keep smiling.